A letter from John Payne, BAT's Chinese affairs man, to Dr. Ray Thornton of their research centre implies scientists in a forthcoming seminar are to be little more than puppets. The seminar was planned by the Chinese National Tobacco Corporation, the CNTC. Payne says he's heard that
CNTC has deliberately invited eminent figures holding diametrically opposed views. CNTC can then publish a report stating that even these distinguished scientists were divided in their opinions.
Thus, he concludes,
it will postpone taking any action until such times as smoking experts can agree. In this way, the growing People's Republic of China anti-smoking lobby can be effectively circumnavigated, at least for the time being.
Dr. Dietrich Hoffmann of the American Health Foundation was one of the Western experts at the China seminar. We told him of the BAT letter.
I'm somewhat irritated because I thought I was recruited to present our point of view because of my scientific quality. But obviously they put me on so that somebody will not fully agree with them. So that it looks kosher, you would say in New York.
Next, there's the case of Peter Lee, a scientist who's worked with the tobacco industry for over 30 years.
I know plenty of good scientists who've done work for the tobacco industry who would feel very annoyed to find they were puppets. I'm not saying there doesn't exist some consultants in the past who one might describe as puppets, but
not you.
But not me.
Yet we've discovered that Mr. Lee's attendance at a conference of the Chest, Heart and Stroke Association in 1984 infuriated one would-be string puller at BAT. The memo from a senior BAT lawyer takes issue with Mr. Lee's remarks that the way in which the cigarette is smoked can affect specific carcinogenicity. That's cancer. The memo then goes on to say,
if he is attending the conference in his capacity as a consultant, we BATCO cannot tolerate statements of this nature, and I feel this should be made known to him in no uncertain terms.
I showed the memo to Mr. Lee. Well, this is a memo about you from BAT written in 1984.
I just don't remember that ever being transmitted back to me.
You didn't hear of it?
I didn't hear it.
If there is pressure, when there's pressure, or if there's pressure, it comes from the legal people, does it?
Well, I mean, I haven't really been under pressure. I mean, it's what I hear. I mean, I'm sure the lawyers are obviously important to some extent. I mean, they have the cases to defend in the States. They have had for many, many years. I would have thought anyone who wanted me to moderate my views doesn't really know me. I mean, it's I wouldn't have thought that. I mean, any of the scientists I've worked through in the companies over the years would never take that view with me.
There's one further BAT document, again from 1984, which sits ill with their insistence even now that tobacco isn't addictive and isn't a drug. Indeed, this internal report states the exact opposite of the company's public position, and in the frankest terms. The document prepared for BAT's Structured Creativity Group by Dr. Colin Gregg of their research department is headed Marketing Scenario and may be interpreted as an attempt to pull the public's, the consumer's, strings. It calls cigarettes a drug administration system, faster acting and more reliable than other drugs such as marijuana, amphetamines and alcohol. It speaks of a 10-minute high from tobacco, which is effective, cheap and legal. It notes, however, that there are drawbacks, the biggest being the health shadow, compounded by the fact that it's messy, smells and even sets fire to things. It notes that smokers are compensating for low tar and nicotine, a reduction in the drug, simply by inhaling more deeply. Puff volumes have risen inexorably, it says. It concludes that if the manufacturers can deliver the right balance of tar and nicotine, all we would want is a larger bag to carry the money to the bank.
It's the kind of document that maybe in some other company a bright young up-and-comer might try and impress his bosses with. But I don't think he is a bright young up-and-comer, because the import of what he's saying is so, is potentially so explosive, if it comes into the public domain as it now has, that he would have to be quite a senior person to get away with it, I should think.
Eventually, secrets do tend to be found out. For the tobacco industry, the problem then is denying the effects of their products, like the puppets, may not stand up.
Well, Dr. Chris Proctor, who's head of science at British American Tobacco, is here in the studio. Richard Peter, who you saw in that report, joins us from Oxford University. It's quite clear from that report, Dr. Proctor, that what your game is.